You are now entering the Horror Sanctum.
Hello, and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. And happy Halloween tomorrow. As you can tell, we're all dressed up. John's dressed up. We're just not sure what he is today. Maybe a tourist of some sort. But we all wanted to get a little dolled up for this wondrous holiday that we all enjoy. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever I think of Halloween, I think Michael Myers. It just seems to be the natural thing, obviously, since Michael Myers is the star of Halloween movies. So aside from it being Halloween, this is also technically our 1 year anniversary show. We've been doing this shit for a year, guys. So thank everybody for listening and for keeping us going and turn this into the fun thing that it's become. We greatly appreciate it. So, but I digress. Halloween. Last year, our very first episode, we talked about 1978's Halloween. So naturally, this year, we're going to go to number 2 with 1981's Halloween 2.
Yeah, so Halloween 2. This is kind of the movie. So there's 2 movies that got me into horror. It's this one and Monster Squad. Monster Squad was kind of the gateway. That was the gateway drug as a kid, renting it on VHS, things like that. And then this movie was kind of the real like slasher introduction for me for Michael Myers. So this was the introduction for like a lot of these type of films for me. I actually saw 2 before I saw Halloween 1. So I was probably 8 or 9, and I was terrified of hospitals forever after this movie. Didn't want to be near them. I was scared to death of Michael Myers. I was actually scared that Michael Myers was going to come kill me for like 2 to 3 years as a kid. No joke. It was like a whole thing. I had a whole phobia about it. So to this day, when I see hospitals, I think of this movie. And I think it's why I have such a fondness for this movie. I'll go ahead and say out front, this is my favorite of the Halloween franchise. It's not the best. The first one is... The first one is the best, of course, but this is my favorite. Absolutely. Just everything about this, I love this movie. It's like, it's Carpenter's vision, but then, they kind of start to do more of the 80s slasher stuff in it. The production of this started out very strange just because originally they wanted Carpenter to come back. He didn't want anything to do with it. He wanted to do more of the Halloween 3 idea, right? So they actually were almost going to hire David Lynch, believe it or not. He was one of the directors lined up. He turned it down. And so they got Rick Rosenthal. So the interesting thing about this movie is that Rick Rosenthal made the movie, but after it was done, Carpenter watched it, didn't like the finished product, and actually reshot a lot of scenes in the movie. So there's kind of a lot of speculation as to what Carpenter did and didn't shoot, as to what role he played. But I can tell you that the things that he has confirmed are basically the whole scene where Michael walks in, steals the knife from Mrs. Elrod's house, and then walks over and kills the girl, Alice. That was all Carpenter. He did all that to kind of add suspense. And you can see it, right? The shot is very Carpenter. Like when he walks into the house, what is it called? The split diopter is what they call it. It's a Brian De Palma technique. So when you see him walk in the house and Alice is on the phone and you see like the blur of him coming in. And then when he walks in and steals the knife, there's this great shot where he walks in, he's got the knife. It shows Mrs. Elrod in front looking at the TV, and then it shows her husband like asleep. And that's kind of famous if you've ever watched any De Palma films like Carrie, things like that. You see those like focus type shots. So that's definitely Carpenter. There was a lot in the script that was taken out too. There was actually a lot of things in there that were taken out. There's multiple versions of this movie, but I guess, and I know TJ's probably going to go into some of this, so I don't want to steal a lot of that from him, but at the end of the day, I really, really like this movie. The colors, everything about it. I love the use of like greens and reds. So like when they're in the police cars, you see the green light come in, and then like you see when Michael's turning on the corner, you see the red lights. I don't know what that is, why they did so much of that, and it's just a technique they used in the early 80s, especially in this film. You see it in The Fog in 1980. The fire stunt at the end of this movie is amazing. Dick Warlock. They were talking about it's one of the most dangerous fire stunts ever done, and he did burn himself for real doing that. That was all legit. Every bit of that. I mean, you watch it now, you can see he's got the puffy gloves when he's walking and stuff, so you can tell obviously it's a stunt guy and he's wearing a suit, but they just don't do that like that anymore, right? So that was all done exactly as you would think, right? They blew it up, they did the stunt, he actually got burned, all that was real. The biggest complaints in this movie that a lot of people have are the number one is Jamie Lee Curtis's wig, right? So, and I have a feeling that Kellen would notice this. I don't know why. Like when I was watching this, I was like, I bet Kellen's gonna notice this like immediately. She's wearing that awful wig, and the reason being is this was filmed in I think it was filmed in 80 and 81. And so she was going to do Trading Places, and she'd already cut her hair. So they had to put the wig on her to make her look more like Laurie did in 1978.
Well,
so,
she also
I mean,
already had short hair from The Fog, too.
Right, exactly. Yep, and The Fog was done just before this movie. So
Did not notice the hair.
You didn't? See, I figured you would notice that. And the other thing, I mean, the hospital itself, watching it again, I noticed how the hospital was very empty. I thought that was odd. I never noticed that till now. I was like, no hospital is this quiet ever, anywhere. So I thought that was a little strange. I mean, it adds to the creepiness and the atmosphere, but I thought that was odd. But yeah, I mean, the music in this works, the kills work, the cinematography. The music is all done by Alan Howarth. So it's basically John Carpenter, and Alan Howarth comes in and redoes his tracks and puts more synth and things in the music. So it's really just the first one with his stuff like overlaid on top of it. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things you can say about this movie. Even the way it looks, the only time they've ever recreated the look of the first and the second one was during the flashback sequence of Halloween Kills. So when you watch Halloween Kills at the very beginning, the way they did those neighborhoods was actually really impressive, just because I felt like I was in Haddonfield, right? Like the way they did everything, the hedges, the sidewalks, the buildings. I was like, that's really amazing that they were able to do that in, I think it was South Carolina, when this was actually all filmed in California, right? One other thing I did want to bring up too is there's a cameo in this movie. You probably all have noticed this. So when they're going to look at the bodies at the beginning, when Annie is on the gurney and you see all the people congregated at the house, there's a news lady talking to someone. She's talking to Dana Carvey. So yeah, the kid who's like talking to the news lady with like the cap, yeah, that was a cameo from Dana Carvey. That was like his first ever film role. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's really, there's a lot of odd Easter eggs in this movie. The one other thing I did want to bring up, and then I'm going to pass it on, is there was actually a deleted scene in the script for this movie that never got filmed. And it's actually, the scene is like this news lady who was there, the one that was kind of like watching everything, and she was trying to get a report, and she was talking to Dana Carvey. There's a scene where she gets in her car and she's trying to go to Haddonfield Memorial. Well, her car breaks down. So a guy pulls over, tries to help her, and then he starts hitting on her, and then he leaves. And so then she goes to her trunk to try to figure out if she's got like a spare or something. And she opens the trunk, and Michael pops out and kills her. And it was this whole sequence. And that's how he gets to the hospital, is he steals her car and then drives. And then basically when he's walking across the street and runs into the kid with the radio, that was how he got there, was from that point. But they decided not to film it. I think it was just like a budget thing. So yeah, I mean, Halloween 2, I love it. I really just I could go on and on about everything about it that I enjoy. I know it's not a perfect movie, but it's a must for me. It's nostalgic and it's why I'm talking horror. So yeah.
And to piggyback on what you just said, John, is something I've only somewhat recently noticed. I rewatched this last night. I've seen this movie literally probably over 100 times over the years because I've watched it almost as much as the original. But talking about that deleted scene, I think it's a little bit of a continuity error, the way that it actually still remains in the film, because you see the two girls that they're coming from the party, and the nurses happen to take the other one home. They leave, right? They drive off, and then he runs into the kid with the boombox to figure out that Lori has been taken to the hospital. And then he heads to the hospital. But when that nurse drives to the hospital, you see in the rear view mirror a shot of him in the back seat, and that's how he apparently got to the hospital. But at what point in time did he meet back up with these nurses, or this one nurse and her friend? So yeah, I do think something was lost in the mix there. I've always thought it was weird. It's like he was just walking and they were already gone. He wasn't in the car. How'd he get into their car? How'd he meet back up with them? She was going like into the next town over or something, like out of the way. So that doesn't make any sense, but we'll give it a pass. It was 1981 and they had to kind of piece together a lot of stuff. By all accounts, no one, including John Carpenter, liked the script that he turned in. The whole reason he got roped into doing this film, it wasn't just the cash grab to make up for the only getting paid $10,000, I believe, to direct the original film. He didn't actually ever want to make a sequel. He wanted to do the anthology thing that they didn't do until 3, if they did anything with it. But what happened was some funny business with the original producers. Irwin Yablans thought that they had locked in a deal to do Carpenter's next 2 pictures and do The Fog with them. Well, that ended up going to another company, and Irwin Yablans sued because they had already had like some kind of an agreement, a deal memo or something had already been worked out. So part of the settlement of that lawsuit was, okay, that other company, I forget what, I think it was MGM, ended up having The Fog to put out. And then part of the deal was he had to at least be involved as a producer and writer for the sequel. So he and Deborah Hill got wrangled in. And they literally they didn't have a choice. It was part of the settlement of this big lawsuit. So he's often said, John Carpenter has often said, that it just took a whole lot of 6-packs of beer to kind of get through it, and that he still hated it once he did turn it in. Irwin Yablans apparently thought it was a very pedestrian script because they were writing to the conventions of a genre that had happened in the 3 years since the first Halloween. It was the early 80s, just the beginning of the slasher boom, right? There'd been 2 Friday the 13th come out. Friday the 13th, Sean Cunningham has famously said, the whole reason I made Friday the 13th was to cash in on the success of Halloween. I wanted to figure out another spooky holiday. What's the only other one I can figure out? Friday the 13th. So I gotta have a killer killing kids, you know. They didn't
Easter's
even know.
Kind of a creepy holiday.
It is a creepy holiday.
We got zombies and bunnies give you eggs and stuff.
There's zombies in your Easter?
He's talking about Jesus.
Oh.
The undead.
I got you. I mean, yeah, that is interesting. Zombie Jesus. That's a good costume. John could pull that off. Keep growing the hair a little bit. Zombie Jesus. But yeah,
Or
so
Jared Leto.
I've
Jesus or Leto. Jared Leto.
that's true. I've always loved this film. I've always watched it. I watched it back to back. I think the first time I watched it was when we first got cable when I was like 11 in middle school. And it used to come on back to back all the time on USA Network, not just in spooky season, like just all year round. And they would almost always play them back to back. So I just thought of it as like a 1-part, 2-part, one long 3-hour movie, basically. And every Halloween for years, I'd watch them back to back. And I really think the continuity of creating, I call it to this day the perfect horror sequel, because it's the only one that has the same look. Even though a little bit of the vibe has changed, it has the same look, has the same feel, picks up the exact second from like the old serials used to do, from where the first one leaves off. And that's why I think it's the perfect horror sequel. I don't think there's ever been another one that tops it. I owe so much of that, I think, to Dean Cundy, the wonderful director of photography that did the original Halloween and most of John Carpenter's early work in the late 70s and early 80s. Dean Cundy had a verbal agreement with Carpenter to do the sequel, and in fact, in the time between that deal, he got offered to be the DP on Steven Spielberg's production that Tobe Hooper directed, Poltergeist, in 1982. And so he had to actually give up because he felt that Halloween kind of helped put him and his career on the map, and he felt an obligation to John Carpenter. So he had to say no to doing the DP work for Poltergeist to do Halloween 2. So I think if any other DP were probably doing it, you wouldn't have that same continuity, the same kind of that only exists in like early Carpenter work, like Escape from New York and the first 2 Halloweens. It's that kind of dark, but it's blue. It's like it's always dark, but with a blue tint. And
that's why a lot of people think that the first Michael Myers jumpsuit was the blue tinting. But if you actually research it, it's like a grayish green. Like they have the specific one, but yeah, a lot of, and it ended up transitioning to blue. But yeah, that blue tint that you're talking about is why a lot of people, gravitate towards that blue jumpsuit.
Yeah, well, that's why I got the blue jumpsuit, right? And it's probably just the blue gel that they put on the lens, and it just kind of gives everything this almost kind of dreamlike quality. It's like it's not quite reality, because real darkness doesn't photograph that well and look that bright, right? But and I think they made a lot of interesting choices with the hospital set. Apparently, by all accounts, it was a terrible set to film on because they were very close to an airport and in the direct flight path. So they could only have maybe 10 minutes at a time, sometimes not even 1 minute in between planes. So it was very difficult on the actors on that set because they would just be sitting around waiting for clear air to get a takeoff. And of course, they're filming on film, so that's a whole setup. It's not as easy as digital now, where you can just go and just keep it running all the time. I love this film. I won't say the blasphemous thing that John said, that it's better than the original, but
no, I didn't say it was better. I said I liked it more.
Okay, yeah. That's fair.
We shamed him out of that direction real fast.
That's fair. I mean, I like it just a half notch below the original. And as a young kid, I loved the extra slasher deaths, and actually that's one of the things that John Carpenter come on and help kind of punch up, was some of those kills. I think the eyeball death with the nurse was one of the ones that he filmed. There were several things where they just really accented those kill shots to make it more for the slasher audience that was already around by that point. But yeah, I think it's a great sequel. It was great that they could get Donald Pleasance back, who really sells it. I think Jamie Lee Curtis's wig should have got billing because it outperforms her in some of the scenes. She's mostly catatonic or just stumbling around through the film. I mean, her performance is much better in the first film. This is mostly Michael Myers just killing a bunch of random people in a hospital, and then you kind of get that last 20 minutes of the cat and mouse thing, which I still think is classic. The mask that I have is the Halloween 2 mask, because I always liked that it was technically the same mask they used in the first film, and Deborah Hill just had it under her bed, I think, for a couple of years and gave it to Dick Warlock. Talking about that fire stunt that John was talking about, he actually, the burn suit had zip up sleeves, and he got like second-degree burns on both of his arms because the zippers got so hot on the burn suit, which I don't think they make them that way anymore, that it like burned into his flesh. So very impressive stunt. This is where they supposedly definitively, and this was John Carpenter's purpose, killed off Michael Myers forever. It's like, okay, you shot his eyeballs out with a revolver at point blank range that's probably just hanging around in his brain or had a massive exit wound or something. And then you burn him up and then you watch him burn. Like, how does that come back? But of course, Mustafa Akkad, 7 years later, brought him back, and then he just has just a little bit of burn on the hand, kind of like Loomis coming back with that fried egg on his face. But you know, IP is the ultimate winner in any franchise. So I'll pass it to the next guy.
Yeah, so didn't like it. Not a big fan. I'm gonna go ahead and just rain on everybody real quick.
You'd seen it before, though.
It's been a long time, but probably when I was 10, 11, maybe. And you know, the nostalgia of it, you know, because like it fits with the first movie. I look at it as basically just one giant film, kind of like we've talked about before with Kill Bill. I mean, this is the same night. It's not any time in the future. It's a continuation of the first film. But I'll get to why I didn't like it in just a minute. I have some notes that I took while watching it this time. Loomis says a line in the movie early on, and I loved the line because it speaks to what Michael Myers is. He is death. When he's running around trying to figure out where he may have gone, and the guy's like, you know, what's going on? Are you serious? I've been trick-or-treated to death. And Loomis says, you don't know what death is? And that's such a powerful line to be talking about the, you know, quote unquote villain of your movie. The first kill in the movie is hysterical. He takes that knife from the old lady. He goes, that other teen girl's there. And then Michael Myers literally is like, surprise, bitch. And then it shows his eyes. He's like I keep thinking of that Gopher meme where the boom, boom, boom. Like that's, I could hear that music in my head when Michael Myers pops up and kills this girl, and I couldn't help but literally laugh out loud at just how almost absurd it was. You know, most of the time he's stalking, he surprises people in a more subtle way, but this one he was just like, gotcha. So I did enjoy that. Probably not supposed to laugh at somebody getting killed in such a typically tense movie, but yeah, it kind of took me out for a second. I had to pause and regroup. Another thing I noticed, and it happens in the newer Halloween movies, Haddonfield is always ready to riot. I mean, it was the same night that he's killed all these people, that a group of people have shown up at the house and they're throwing rocks at it, and I'm ready to get pitchforks and and torches and just, you know, go on a rampage trying to find this guy. So I thought that was funny as well. They haven't even had time to process what's going on, but they've already, you know, lined up ready to you know, roam the streets basically.
And how long is this night? It's like, that's one thing. It's like 7 p.m. to, but I mean, it's like 12 hours of night constantly. Like, yeah.
Maybe the blue filter got stuck on the camera and they're just like, eh. Another thing that got me, and I guess it's the adult in me, you know, you don't question things like this as a kid, but as an adult and living in the world that we live in, maybe don't question the psych doctor who shows up and his chosen treatment for his escaped patient is a revolver. Maybe we stop questioning just how dangerous this guy might be when the psych doctor's just like, all right, gonna go take care of my patient. Everybody questions him. The police are, I'm getting tired of you bossing me around. No, you tell me where to point, because we're all going in guns blazing if the doctor that's been treating him for 15 years thinks that's the only solution. The scene in the quote unquote hot tub in the hospital, I don't know how familiar you are with whirlpools in hospitals, but they're typically for treatments. A lot of times it's for patients with wounds. So them going in there to try and get frisky, ew, gross. That was so. That was probably
Covered in scabs.
I was just like, "What are y'all doing?" The nurse should know what's been in that water. So, and conversely, you know, they talk about you know, worst ways to die, and usually at the top of the list is drowning and burning alive. So kudos to Michael to look at that situation and be like, hey, why not both at the same time, as he's basically scalding this woman and drowning her at the same time, which is just an absolute brutal way to kill somebody. To what John said earlier, I noticed the same thing about the hospital, and I noticed it the first time I saw it years ago, and it's always stuck in my mind. There's like, what, 12 staff members? It's a 3-story hospital. Were they on diversion? You can't say, oh, it's a small town, they just didn't have a lot of patients. You don't build a 3-story hospital unless you have enough patients to fill a 3-story hospital. And yet every floor seems empty except for the charge nurse or the one nurse on the floor. So that kind of takes me out of it as well. The whole hospital, it's like they're, I don't know, the generators are out and they're trying to conserve power, so they've got the lights off literally everywhere. And I don't know if you've been in a hospital in the United States in the past 30 years, but it's never ever that dark.
And yet the newborn baby section was totally full.
I mean, where are the parents? Where are the other patients? Where's literally anybody? They had one security guard for that entire hospital, and he absolutely wasn't inept. I mean, that again, it's just another, and that's not even necessarily nitpicking. I think obviously it's a choice. You know, we talked about before, wanting the feeling of seclusion really kind of, you know, makes the scene all that more tense, all that more terrifying. But it's just hard for me to believe that Michael's roaming this hospital willy-nilly and not one person's like, who's that?
And also the lights aren't on most of the time in the hospital.
Yeah, the whole hospital's dark. Even the outside, there's hardly any lights in the parking lot. I mean, are they just treating patients, you know, with the best of intentions, but have no idea what they're doing because they can't see anything that comes in? Deputy shows up with a gunshot wound, they're just gonna be like, I'm just gonna poke around until he says ow, because they're not gonna be able to see it. So that's all nitpicking to some degree. But ultimately, my problem with the whole movie, and I think maybe it has something to do with what y'all have talked about. Maybe Carpenter didn't want to do it, so he just powered through it and made the movie to the point to where he, you know, obviously didn't really want to have to make another one. So, you know, put 12 bullets in Michael's chest, 2 in his eyes, and then exploded him. And like you said, it ends with the camera showing him burning alive or burning to death. But the pacing's just not great. It's not the same as the first one. It doesn't feel as fluid. It feels almost more like jump cuts to different sections, or almost like an anthology of murders that they've pieced together until you get to the chase scene at the end. which is another thing. Lori can't scream until they're just out of shot. She help me, and then she screams as soon as the door shuts. And she screamed super loud. I feel like they still would have heard something. John pointed it out in an earlier episode. It's just absurd when Michael Myers breaks through the door, just robotic like. I mean, I don't know why they didn't have him like punch the glass or stab at the glass when he lifts the girl with the X-Acto knife. Like, I mean, come on. I get that you're trying to show that he's almost supernatural, but I mean, that thing would have, nothing else, she would have slid down it. She wouldn't have been lifted up, or he would have just cut right through her. So I feel like maybe this was rushed a little bit. Maybe it was just thrown together. It doesn't have the same nostalgia. It doesn't have the same feel. There's just parts of it that just miss for me. The opening, probably 10 minutes, great. The last 20 minutes, great. All that middle stuff just feels like they were just trying to make a movie. I literally looked at the time of the film and was like, okay, I'm glad this is only an hour and a half. So that's where I'm at with this film. Sorry, John, I know this is your favorite, but I'm not here to make friends. So with that, Jay, I'll let you close it out and tell us what you thought.
Well, before we get to me, we have a special guest that's going to put in their 2 cents. You actually fought him in a movie a couple of years back, Kellen.
Fought him?
You fought him. You're Freddy Krueger, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh,
Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, another thing. Oh,
He said it.
Oh,
he
boy.
said it.
oh, boys.
why did you let me have such a hot take right before Vito comes on?
That was the
K-Dog.
plan. That was the
Hey,
plan.
dog. Oh, boy.
Ah,
Woo! Lord. Now, everything you say might be factual, sir. You might be breaking it down like why the lights off and this and that, and why is this going over there, and why is Ben Stramer acting like a dumbass across the street? I don't know. You may have said that. You may have not have said that, but guess what, baby? I don't give a shit. I love this movie. I love this movie.
it's okay to
whoo, I
like
love
trash.
it. Hey, baby. Everyone's got to eat. All right? I don't care. One man's trash is another man's bon appetit, baby. Bon appetit. All right? That's all I got to say. I gotta say, I love it. You wanna know why I love it? Too much Halloween 2 in my ear right now. I'm saying, right now, I gotta tell you right now, it's everything more that I love about Halloween. We get more Loomis, we get more Michael, we get more atmosphere, even though it's not exactly the same, we get more of it. So if you really love Halloween 1, you just love Halloween 2. Even like it a little bit. You can just like it. You can accept it. You can move on. It's a nice little epilogue to this big old masterpiece that it is. I love it. I love it. But everything you're saying is factual. It's correct. But you can love a thing and accept it for its flaws and still love it. I accept those flaws and I love it. So
That's why we have him on the show still, because we love him despite all his flaws.
I wish my parents were like that.
how's that?
Don't we all? Vito Trigo, everybody, with his take, which was against Kellen's, which was planned. He
Did
calls
you know
you
that I wasn't
what
gonna enjoy
do you
it?
call him, Vito?
Did you
The-
not
the-
see me? Did you not see me like just waiting there in the mask this whole time?
No, you're
I
not
could
even on my
see.
screen. I had no idea.
Oh, I was just there in the mask. I was just there in the mask this whole time. When he invited me in, I was just like, I'm just gonna stay in the mask. So I was like, I don't know how this looks. It's just like, ooh, hello. I'm just sitting here in the
It
mask.
fits. Freddy versus Jason. I'm here for it.
There
It
you
didn't-
go.
that wasn't planned at all. That wasn't. I was just like, he said costumes, and I was like, nerds. And I was like, well, I got that.
And I said, duh, we are nerds.
Wait,
Vito
wait,
calls
wait,
you,
wait,
Kellen,
wait,
the
wait, wait.
smiling face assassin. Because you
Smiling
give
face
like
assassin.
bad reviews on movies, but you smile the entire time.
Like if you're on mute, I'd be like, oh man, he loves this movie. Let me take it off mute. I was like, this is the best garbage ever. It's garbage. It's just garbage. I can't believe it. It's garbage. Who made this? Who put it out there? They lit it on fire and they took a shit on it too. It's garbage. That's what happens. So smiley face
That's
assassin,
funny.
baby. Can't tell
All right,
what
so-
you're gonna do. I was like,
So me, On Vito, thank you. If you want to stay till the end, you're more than welcome. If you got to go,
Oh, sure, I'm here. Why not?
you got it. I still have the nostalgia for it. But like I said, like we said, it's one long movie, and I love when they're connected like that. I also love when it's kind of like single location movies, with it being all in the hospital, despite its obvious flaws, as Kellen pointed out, as a nurse who's going to point that out. You just kind of have to accept it for what it is, like everything else. Like I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but I don't expect them to come down anytime soon and turn me into cotton candy. It's just one of those things where, like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's Halloween. It's going to be busy, but it's still fun. But I enjoyed it. But again, it is that nostalgia. I honestly haven't watched it in probably 5 years. Like I just haven't revisited it, and I'm glad I did because it is a fun movie. It is very atmospheric. So we'll go around with everybody, give our favorite kills and our 5-star rating. And then we have a special judge for our costume contest coming up that John did not participate in. So I'll just go ahead and go. I gave it a 3.5. I know we did Halloween almost a year ago. It's God tier. It's 5. For 2, I gave it 3.5. I don't really have a reason why. I almost changed it to 3 while everybody was talking, but I went back to my original 3.5. So what about you, John?
So I will say the first thing, everybody loves Nick Castle. I love Nick Castle, but I really think Dick Warlock made this real special. Just everything he does, the slow walk. I know Deborah Hill didn't like it, but everything that he does in this movie is very methodical, is very slow, is very robotic. I mean, to this day, I have memories of thinking about him chasing her to the elevator and then the outside scene where she's in the car and what's his name? Hits the horn, Lance Guest, his head hits the horn and it's honking. I remember getting Jimmy. I remember getting so anxious as a kid about that. So it's hard for me because I do have nostalgia for this movie. I wonder how I would feel now if I watched it as a 38-year-old never seeing it. That being said, we're doing ratings or kills right now.
Well, I glossed right over my kill, but we can do both. My kill was the very first one where they thought they got Michael Myers. The police car comes crashing into him, and then he bursts into flames. That's probably mine. So yeah, go ahead and do
that.
Both.
Reminds me real quick. That scene makes me think that Michael Myers' entire outfit was a Halloween costume anyway. Like there just happens to be a random kid wearing the same mask and the same jumpsuit. Like, so did Michael Myers just
he had
throw on a Halloween costume?
The hair was different. The hair was different.
The hair's blonde.
The
Like
hair
it
was
wasn't
different.
that
The hair
one
was
random
blonde.
scene
Well,
in
he's
Halloween.
He's wearing a
stole it.
jumpsuit with a white face
The
mask.
hair was blonde.
Well, they
He
stole
got
it
his
from
at-
the.
He got his at Fred's, and Michael got his at Target.
Well, they stole it from the
Well,
hardware
wait,
store.
here's something for you. Maybe Ben saw Michael roaming around, was like, "Yo, that's a great outfit." I'll go. They're similar. That dude was scary. I want to be scary too. Ben, Ben was just, copying the random scary dude he saw on the street. There you go.
Who references Fred's? You can get it at Fred's or Target. Who says Fred's or Target?
I'm sorry for the millennial and older generation. Wish.com versus Amazon. Is that better?
There you go.
Well, they stole it from the hardware store. That's where he broke into in the first one. So if this is a continuation, you could assume it's a lot of these.
He got the jumpsuit from a mechanic.
The jumpsuit could be the thing.
Jumpsuit.
The jumpsuit you have a point with, but the mask,
I would say though, favorite kill for me is probably the nurse. I think her name is Janet when she's getting boiled alive. That was great. One other thing I wanted to bring up for my rating is the last thing is if you notice the scene where Laurie is like comatose and she's sitting there and she's like looking up and they're like trying to wake her up. Okay, that doesn't make any sense because they cut the scene where the doctor double doses her. So the doctor who was drunk accidentally double doses her, and that's why she was like that. So they cut that scene, just in case you're wondering why that's randomly happening. Anyway, my rating, Halloween 1 was 4.5 out of 5, so I'm going to say 4.5 out of 5. I love it. Wow. I'm not going to rate it higher than Halloween 1, but yeah, 4.5 out of 5.
All right, TJ, kill rating.
Well, my favorite kill, I think, is the stabbing the nurse in the eyeball. However, the thing that makes me cringe the most, since I hate getting blood work done or anything in the fold of my arm, is those those close-up shots of giving the meds to Lori when she first comes into the ER. That I always look away at those. It just creeps me out. But I love it. It's not quite as good as the first, so I'll give it a it's between 4 and 4.5, but I'm feeling good, so 4.5.
All right, let's bring that down a little bit, Kellen.
Yeah. So favorite kill, I already talked about. It's the first one, just where Michael just pops up and just surprise stabs the girl. I will say the kills in this are top tier. Some of them, the drowning in the hot tub, the girl that he the nurse that he bleeds to death. That's such a great visual.
The hammer to the head too is pretty solid.
Yeah, very brutal. I guess because of my love of Rocky Horror Picture Show, every time the guy kept saying Janet, I was hoping he would say, "Damn it, Janet." But it never happened. But yeah, my favorite kill is that one, just because the first one, just because it's so absurd. Even though it doesn't mean to be. As far as ratings, I'm not going to be far off from Jay because it is still watchable. It doesn't have the same watchability as the first one. It doesn't have the same watchability as H2O. It probably doesn't have the same watchability as Resurrection, if we're being honest. If we're being There's the faces. There they are. I'm kidding. Resurrection's hot garbage. I agree with everybody's opinion on that. So,
also directed by Rick Rosenthal.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, so my rating, I'm going to give it a 3. It has its moments. It's just such a flawed film.
All right, Vito, rating, kill.
Well, this is going to be strange because we're on the different spectrums here, but I'm giving it a 3. But I love it. Like I said, I accept it for all of its flaws, but I love it. So I can't deny certain things. And favorite kill would be Michael, because he got his ass blown up. Props to the stunt man for walking on fire like he did.
All right, so that gives us 3.7. We round up. We're going to call it a 4. The best part you couldn't see if you're watching this is John's eyes when Kellen said resurrection.
And it was delayed. He wasn't even. He was just like in his own world, and all of a sudden.
Yeah, it was hilarious. All right, so that's a wrap on this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to wherever you're listening to us now. If you have Amazon, I made a playlist with songs and artists from the shows. And come back next week when we discuss 2023 A24's Australian horror hit, Talk to Me. I'll have to watch that one again. But before we sign off completely, we have another special guest with us here to judge our costume contest, Mr. Jaron Williams, who you remember from our Barbarian episode.
Hi, folks.
Hey, bud. Thanks for taking a second away from work to come chat with us.
No problem.
So it's going to.
I'm kind of upset that you guys discuss Hollywood 2. What is it? Go ahead.
I was going to say, as you see, only 4 of us have dressed up, so it's going to be an easy task for you. But finish that thought.
I was going to say I'm upset that you guys discuss Halloween 2 without me, but we're not going to delve back into that. I'm gonna let this go because I thought that I said that I love that movie, but we'll let it go. We'll let it go.
I need a Jaron list. I need a Jaron list of movies. If we talk about them, you want to be there.
Okay. Well, I'm a lover of Salem's Lot. Big time.
Which one?
Strangers. The very first one. The very first. The TV adaptation. The
old school
first one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The old school one. And looking to see what's coming up with this one, this new one that's supposed to be coming out whenever that's going to come out. So yeah, big Salem's Lot fan. Have y'all done Strangers?
Return to Salem.
We haven't done The Strangers yet, no. And that's about to get rebooted too.
Hold up, was that TJ? Who's that? What? Okay, all right. I thought you didn't have a costume for a moment. Oh, you just couldn't breathe. That's what was going on. We need you to breathe. All right. Yeah, you said you did strangers or you didn't?
No, we haven't yet.
Okay, all right. Well, that would be nice, but I won't hold you guys up. I know I just hopped on here to judge, so all right. Do I get a good look at everybody real quick? Are you trying to fish for the win, Jay?
Everybody say hello.
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 Hello, Clarice.
And then me, who's obviously the best, and so humble, so very humble.
Stop. Okay, all right. Drum roll. All right, screw the drum roll. I'm giving it to Kellen because I have a soft spot in my heart for Freddie. Not just because of that, it's because he made the effort at a sunburnt face.
He was late to us
Not so
recording
much.
this because of that face.
For that face? How
That
late were
face.
you? About 5 minutes late for the
Yeah, sure. Five sounds right.
Okay.
I
all right.
also, just so you know, I made this shirt recently and haven't had to finish it yet.
Uh-oh. Nice.
No stripes on the back half.
Disqualified.
You look like you
Oh,
just got run over
half-ass
by a golf
Freddy.
cart.
Freddie in the front, Fred in the back.
All right, Jaron. Thank you so much, Jaron, and happy Halloween from all of us here at the Sanctum, and from all our
Happy
guests.
Halloween.
Vito, Jaron, thanks for hanging out with us, and thank everybody for listening, for making this a fun experience for all of us. Whenever you start a podcast, it's kind of 50-50. Like, is it going to be fun? Is it going to stay fun? And this one has stayed a lot of fun for all of us. So we greatly appreciate it. So signing off, happy Halloween. I'm Jay with John, Kellen, TJ, Jaron, and Vito Trigo. And until next time,
Keep it spooky.
I'm fairly certain that most of Vito's content that he does for us is solely based on my reactions most of the time. I just imagined him sitting in his house listening or watching on YouTube, and he hears me start talking, and his just blood pressure goes up.
Right,
He's
he's
like,
like, this
I'll give you an
motherfucker.
example.
This idiot,
I'll give you an
this
example.
idiot.
Hold on. Check this out. I'm cleaning. What the fuck? What?
Is that Kellen again?
Son of a Kelly. Do you want what he want to say? Do you want to know what he said? Son of That's kind of what happens.
Oh,
Sounds accurate.
It happens to us in real time. So
All right, guys. Guys, take care. I love listening to it and keeping up, whatever. Hope to hop on again one day.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
come
You know it.
Absolutely.
Later, Jaron.
All right, later.
Laters. Vito, thanks again.
No problem, buddy.
We're about to start the new year, so we'll definitely have you back. You can make me a list too, whichever movies you would love to talk about, because we're obviously going to have you back on, and we appreciate everything
Well,
you do for us and all the
Actually,
videos you make.
I just watched Talk to Me.
oh,
Okay.
You
Oh,
want to
really?
come on that
Nice.
show?
Should come on.
Sure.
Let me look.
When are we recording that?
I think it's November. I got it. Hang on.
Something else in this movie.
November
I didn't look-
2nd. November
November
2nd,
2nd?
Vito.
That's not
That
so
should be.
bad
I
not
don't
having
think I'm
seen
going
that
to.
yet since it just came out. When he
Yeah,
was
it's
talking
on
about Salem's
Thursday.
Lot, I was like, oh, I should probably watch that at some point.
It's the Thursday after Halloween.
Don't watch the Rob Lowe one. You'll be totally off if you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
God.
you should
Yeah,
watch
no.
I got the
No.
Blu-ray coming. The Return to Salem's Lot in the 80s.
It's okay. It's all
decent.
right.
It's
Yeah.
I
decent.
haven't seen The Strangers either, so judge me there as well.
It's not.
You'll
a-
see the reboots, because what's her face from the redhead from Riverdale is the main actress in it.
Oh,
I'm kind of concerned about that, because the first one was great. I like the second one, even though it got a lot of flack. But redoing it with a TV actress, I'm very concerned about. But we'll see. I'll watch it either way.
well, all those actresses from Riverdale have kind of like their career has been jump started from that. Like, it's surprising that she hasn't been in something else sooner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she has like some little things here and there, but all right. So Vito, November 2nd, if you want to join us for that one,
Sure.
we'll be good. I didn't like it. Spoilers. I didn't. My problem was the hype, but we'll talk about it on that episode because I'm sure we'll get into it. Mine was the hype.
I had no hype into it. My wife had to like twist my arm to watch it. She was like, "Come on!" I was like, "I don't want to talk to me." Nah, just twist my arm.
Good.
So.
That should be an interesting episode then. All right, I'm going to go eat dinner. If you're still sticking around with us, we appreciate it. This is our new little segment, Postmortem, where we just keep talking after. I think it's probably one of Vito's suggestions when he was on, because we always tend to talk when we're done, and sometimes there's some good shit in there, little choice nugs. So
there's one more thing. Dick Warlock at the end of the movie, H2, just for anyone watching, if you have a 4K Blu-ray, when Laurie shoots him in the eyes, I never noticed this. When he's bleeding, you can actually see him closing his eyes, and you can see the blood coming out of the top of the mask. So it's obvious that it's the way they did it. If you have the Blu-ray, you can see it if you zoom in. But anyway.
Yeah. Also, I've never thought of the name Dick Warlock, but it's kind of like
that was actually my nickname in high school. It was weird. I don't know how I got that name.
Penis Wizard.
Wait, was Dick Warlock the one who also played Jason? Which one? Which deal? I thought there was one that also played Jason. Like he had that distinction.
Done a lot of stuff. I don't know if he's done a Jason or not though.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that up. But all right, I'm gonna go eat some dinner. Vito, thank you. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, pleasure as always.
We'll see you guys. I don't even know when we come back.
That worked out so good though.
I guess the 19th.
Like the 19th, yeah.
And that's a spoiler alert. The writer of the Becky movies is going to be that one if you're still here. So, all right. See you guys.
All right. Peace. See you, Vito.
See you guys.
See ya.